There will never be another game like Doom Eternal, and in the years since its release, no other first-person shooter has come close to engaging me in the same way. Eternal had everything going for it, a classic formula that stood the test of time, a prior release that massively resurrected its IP, and a development team that knew the guts of Doom inside and out. It's for these reasons that the puzzle pieces fit so firmly together, and 5 years after launch I still find myself thinking about experiences that could only come from this game. But development didn't hit the ground running. As good as Doom 2016 was, id wasn't interested in making the same game all over again with minor improvements and alterations. It took time before Eternal would find its new direction. Push-forward combat and glory kills aren't going to carry us this time, said Martin, referring to an early build of Doom Eternal. I'm not making an excuse to go into the office right now so I can play the game on a Saturday. Released in 2020 by developer id Software and publisher Bethesda Softworks, Doom Eternal would see massive changes that tightened its core gameplay loop and added greater depth to its combat. Id studied the response to Doom 2016 online and came away with some impressions. The game was well liked, but it wasn't all that challenging, and could get repetitive by the time it reached its third act. The arena gameplay needed to be elevated to keep players engaged, so id imbued the player with enhanced mobility, dialed up the demonic presence, and fixed a new metagame to their frenetic combat chessboard. They also introduced enemy weak points that the player could exploit for advantages in battle. For example, a highly mobile foe like the Whiplash could be held in place with the plasma rifle's microwave function or ice grenades, while the shotgun's alternate fire triggered paralyzing indigestion in the Cacodemon. The list went on, and it made overcoming Eternal's enemies more rewarding. Players would need to consider weapon ammo types, ability cooldowns, and hot swap through their arsenal for the perfect tool for the job to survive. The skill floor was moving up, and Doom's next chapter was finally coming into focus. The Mars-based UAC may have been eaten alive, but the Slayer continues, dauntless in his vengeful campaign. He comes to Earth to hunt Hell Priests, close demonic portals, and confront the Makers, a race of angel-like beings from the realm of Urdak who have shaken hands with Hell and welcomed the end of mankind. Game director Hugo Martin was inspired by over-the-top action movies like RoboCop, and those influences shaped this incarnation of our beloved Doomslayer. It's thanks to Martin that we've gotten used to seeing him treat important equipment recklessly and commandeer military ordnance to satisfy his ancient bloodthirst. Watching this Slayer interact with the world brought things to a new, self-aware level. Whether he's decorating his medieval space fortress with death metal vinyl, blasting holes into neighboring planet cores, or adding the newest item to his expansive toy collection. Despite the fact that our lens to this character is restricted to a pair of arms 90% of the time, there isn't one change I'd make to his portrayal. We wanted people to just exhale and be like, let's just have fun. We know this is ridiculous, you know this is ridiculous, let's just shake hands on this and have some fun. While the forces of Hell are impressive this go, Eternal's arsenal is what truly commands respect. Your toolkit is ready for every ounce of abuse, and not only is it well-rounded, it supports a decent amount of tinkering. The new and improved Praetor suit is stacked with upgrades and comes paired with hellish chrome that can be modded and switched on the fly. Take for example the rocket launcher, which can be fitted with a lock-on device that shoots in a volley of 3, or equipped with remote detonating rockets. There's also the heavy cannon, which can support micro-missiles or be converted for long-range precision if you're one of those crack shot types. Even your super shotgun can be upgraded, allowing the meat hook to barbecue your every foe. Adding to Eternal's upgrades are enhancements tied to the Slayer's mobility, which greatly improve verticality and platforming. More importantly, these adjustments help keep the player glued to their enemies, chaining action sequences together for an airtight gameplay loop. This kit allows for crazy combos that weren't possible in Doom 2016, like pumping a nearby Cacodemon full of lead, then meat hooking around the arena to secure the glory kill. Seeking out hidden runes and unlocking Praetor suit points pushes the limits further, eventually turning the Slayer into an all-capable killing machine. The whole experience feels supercharged, and when you're deep in the flow state, shredding through waves of postmortals like gory wedding cakes is akin to bliss. The shores of Hell have been hungry for souls since 1992. and Eternal has given the classic demons redesigns that harken back to the pen of Adrian Carmack himself. We've been happy to shoot and squash these lovable bastards for decades, and this iteration of Hellspawn makes me smile like the first time I booted up E1M1. Enemy fodder such as the Unwilling, Imps, Gargoyles, and zombified soldiers serve much the same role they did in 2016, presenting low risk to the player and potential resource opportunities if things run dry during the course of a fight. But heavy class demons aren't pushovers, and should be handled with care. Hell Knights, Arachnotrons, Cacodemons, Revenants, and Pinkies are just a few baddies that can turn an ordinary wave into a hairy one. 2 debuting monsters are also here to mix things up. The Carcass creates energy barriers that block your shots, and the Slithering Whiplash winds around for flanking opportunities, hitting with some surprising damage. And still, those aren't the worst foes you can expect to spawn. Strategy is tough to maintain once super heavy demons come out to play. It's often best to focus these threats immediately, but it may be necessary to get out of the way long enough to bolster resources for a significant counter. You'll be surprised how quickly death can come if you fail to respect these enemies, even if you've maxed out your health and armor stores. Super heavies like the Doom Hunter are respectable skill checks, but no encounter catches me off guard in the main campaign like id's Pride and Joy AI, the Marauder. The Marauder is simply built different, dashing around the arena, summoning wolves to fight for him, and slashing from range while blocking shots with his shield. It takes careful timing to best him, and I groan every time one or more pop in for a brawl. The key to taking on the Marauder is to keep him at a medium distance, cutting off his projectile attack. Holding your fire until his eyes flash green is the only way I've found to inflict damage, since super weapons fail to penetrate his shield. There are memorable boss encounters that introduce a fair challenge. When you finally saved Earth from the Icon of Sin and dominated every master level, you may think you've conquered all Doom Eternal has to offer. But think again. The Ancient Gods campaign add-ons continue the narrative, introducing more demonic variants that will test your capabilities to a borderline unfair degree. Picking up the Ancient Gods again for the purpose of this video was like slipping into a warm bath. Allow me to clarify. I bathed over and over again in my own blood, guts, and pee thanks to an onslaught of stone imps, possessive spirits, and the occasional swaying shipping container. Hell has reformed its strategy, and employed the most loathsome creatures in its depths to bolster the ranks. Tag 1 requires every bit of knowledge and capability acquired during the main campaign, while throwing wrench after wrench into your well-ingrained playstyle. The increased difficulty was warmly welcomed by Eternal's community of elite slayers, who have been studying the DNA of combat since release day. Though id pride themselves on balancing for white belts and black belts alike, Part 1 of the Ancient Gods drew scrutiny from casual players who felt left behind. The team retuned some of the more egregious elements of the add-on, but reiterated their commitment to the design philosophy going into Tag 1. A power fantasy earned will always be more satisfying than a power fantasy that had been given. When Tag 2 released 5 months later, the community response was loud, claiming that the pendulum had swung way too far in the casual direction. A lot of blame was directed at the Sentinel Hammer, a new armament with the ability to stun enemies and potentially trivialize encounters in Tag 2. Though I'm far from the greatest player, I managed to get by playing on ultra-violence difficulty, though I groaned quite a bit facing the DLC's end boss, the Dark Lord. In my estimation, Tag 1 and Tag 2 are worthy additions that take the challenge far beyond what the base campaign offers, and I was up for that challenge. Then again, I'm also the kind of player that doesn't mind being put through the ringer. Hugo provided outreach with members of Eternal's online community, and their feedback seems to have tightened up both Ancient Gods campaigns. The community is also to thank for the official inclusion of Horde Mode, a free game mode inspired by Doom modders who popularized it online. I was surprised to learn that id added a functional mod launcher to Eternal this year, and its inclusion warms my heart. Doom has always lended itself to its community of passionate players, and this is a wonderful gesture of thanks that will help the game live on. There's no telling what Doom's faithful community will create going forward. The modern Doom experience can't be summed up without mentioning the energizing spirit that possesses the player and powers the charge. It manifests in the pounding guitar chugs and hellified choirs of composer Mick Gordon, who worked tirelessly to craft soundtracks that led Doom's combat. Mick is one of the real ones. He knows games inside and out, and his ability to understand the heart of every project he takes on makes him one of my favorite composers in the business. Mick's sound is as tight as it's ever been, and his recipe of winding synthesizers and drop-tuned guitars still prove to be the perfect killing fuel. Doom Eternal's Collector's Edition included Mick's official soundtrack, and as soon as it was announced, my pre-order was placed. But when release day came, I couldn't access my copy of the OST. The soundtrack had been delayed, and when it finally became available a month later, pissed off fans aired their frustrations online over a severe drop in quality. We'd learn later on that the development of Doom Eternal was strenuous, and the controversy surrounding the OST wasn't just taking place online, but between Mick and the offices of id Software themselves. According to Mick via his post on Medium, the working environment became toxic, and bad blood formed, reaching a boiling point behind the scenes where legal action had been threatened. I'm not interested in rehashing the legal specifics, but what can be confirmed is that Gordon felt overworked, disrespected, and that more attention was needed for the OST to fulfill its promise to fans. The editing was poorly done. To make his OST edits, Chad cut bits out of my already mastered in-game score and arbitrarily copy-pasted these bits together to create songs. But he carelessly pasted those bits directly on top of each other, frequently off-grid and out of time, without even a crossfade to cover the transition. Mick Gordon. Some have suggested that we've been careless with or disrespectful of the game music. Others speculated that Mick wasn't given the time or creative freedom to deliver something different or better. The fact is, none of that is true. Marty Stratton, executive producer of Doom Eternal. Comparing Doom Eternal's OST to the robust sound of Doom 2016's lends credence to Gordon's concerns, but there's no way of knowing how things really shook out behind the scenes. After Mick's departure, sound for the Ancient Gods campaign DLC was contracted out to Doom 64 composer Andrew Hulshult and David Levy. Hulshult actually does some phenomenal work, and I especially enjoyed his renditions of the original Bobby Prince tracks in 2024's Doom 1 plus Doom 2. Sadly, Mick doubts he'll work with id Software and Bethesda again in the future. Regardless, I'm glad he was able to deliver another incredible game and firmly cement his legacy in the Doom franchise. It's a shame, because on both Doom and Doom Eternal, I had the great fortune of working directly with enormously talented people whose creative ideas and technical wizardry led to both games' success. Mick Gordon, composer Doom Eternal. id and Bethesda were pleased with Doom Eternal's success, selling an estimated 3 million digital copies in its first month and garnering over $450 million in revenue in less than a year. The 2020 release sailed over Doom 2016's initial 957,000 digital units, and at the time of this writing, Microsoft have chosen not to comment on sales figures for 2025's Doom: The Dark Ages. Eternal currently boasts an impressive 88 on Metacritic, marking it as the highest scoring entry in the modern Doom trilogy. id have been influencing the industry for decades, and have proven themselves on multiple occasions as masters of their craft. Plenty will have differing opinions, but as far as I'm concerned, Doom Eternal is the greatest offline first-person shooter of all time, and the perfect evolution to an effort that revitalized a true pillar in video games. This is a release players will always be tinkering with thanks to mod support, and counted among the best entries of a franchise that couldn't be more fundamental to the hobby. A lot of hard work went into the development of this game, and by the sounds of things, there was a lot of crunch. I'd like to congratulate id Software for unionizing on December 12th. The majority of the studio voted in favor, and the effort has already been recognized by Microsoft. Lawrence Bonk of Engadget reports, "The wall-to-wall organization effort at id Software was much needed. It's incredibly important that developers across the industry unite to push back on all unilateral workplace changes that are being handed down from industry executives," id Software producer and CWA committee member Andrew Willis wrote in a statement to Engadget. If you're looking to get lost in an FPS that truly respects your capabilities and you're willing to learn in exchange for a satisfying, one-of-a-kind power fantasy, I can't recommend this game enough. I'm looking forward to the future and can only imagine its possibilities, but whatever unfolds, I know I'll always return to Doom Eternal. Thanks for taking the time to check out Superphase and this look back at Doom Eternal. Don't forget to subscribe for more gaming reviews, updates, and discussions. We really appreciate your feedback and support. Be safe, be well, and cheers.